Word slave. What the fuck is a word slave? Well, it should be pretty descriptive enough. It means somebody who's a slave to words. You know? Doesn't matter what language you speak. All language are basically the same. It's artificial communication. It's artificial intelligence. Okay? It is something we humans evolved into doing many, many thousands of years ago. I would estimate anywhere between, I don't know, I'd say just a ballpark figure, maybe 500,000 years ago. Back then, we had very rudimentary anatomy and architecture to make, sounds with our mouth. Over the years, our brains and our architecture, namely our anatomy of the throat, the larynx and so forth, we slowly evolved to create more complex sounds. And time went on, we basically developed symbols and pictures to coincide with certain sounds, and then eventually those sounds or a grouping of sounds, even one sound would equate a word, and we would give either a group of symbols or maybe a pictograph of that word, and we eventually led us to evolving and creating more language, both in spoken and written form. And even way back then, as we communicated more with one another, we began to develop certain collective mindsets, not really for survival, but more for convenience, and eventually it began imposing upon our natural intellects and instincts. And this linguistic infiltration and corruption evolved to the point where many people were very manipulated and controlled by language, and there was a lot of problems. People who didn't agree with the group mindset or the clan mindset, and eventually on into larger groups and into what we now could call civilizations. Anybody who expressed any kind of opposition or disfavorment were basically ostracized and whatnot, or maybe even beaten or banished from the group. And then there were those within the group who saw this link that a lot of people were developing to language, and certain individuals began using that technology of language to win favor, to gain some certain deferential advantage over the others, be it food, water, or status within the group, and this, and then a lot of people were also becoming aware of this thing that some people were doing to manipulate people's thoughts and feelings and so forth, to gather support. And a lot of people just end up leaving the group and going out on their own and starting a whole new group and whatever. And it was a progressive thing. And it's even more cancerous and more insidious today, with all of our compulsory education and even some of the peer association that we have with language. It's one thing you learning all this crap that you learn in school. It's another thing when you're around your friends and your family, people you grew up with, when they're telling you one thing and you don't feel the same, or you don't share the same viewpoint or whatever. That's all part of the dilemma of language, and people are becoming more and more wrapped up into it, and it's basically turning a lot of us into mindless drones. This is how governments began to develop and evolve. Government is simply collective mind control, and it finds its way into the administration of societal affairs in one shape or another, and it's really that simple. And over the years, a lot of these greedy power-hungry people, that's basically how, especially the people who are in position and they had resources and they had status that they could maintain their power. They are the ones who basically wrote all the edicts and all the laws, and the public accepted them with impunity and without judging or without questioning anything. And it's been a growing cancer since the rise of civilization. People are just so hung up on language. I mean, their minds. I went through the same thing. Going through school, being around my family and my peers and whatnot, and it's not an easy thing to overcome, and it's not an easy thing to get rid of. I mean, in many ways, it's diarrheic. I'm just trying to express my observations, but and just like many other people throughout human history, and people find it very disturbing, and maybe even incomprehensible. But something, you can't put everything into words. It's like trying to describe love or sex or any other type of emotion or feelings that we go through, or certain revelations we experience, certain forms of, I guess you would say, psychosis. I don't mean that in a derogatory term. I'm talking about the way our mind acts and the way it responds according to our environment. And that's what all languages have done throughout the millennia. It's we are becoming assimilated to our languages like a computer to a program. All this crap about living religiously, living philosophically, living one way or living the other, it's all just lingual bullshit. That's what we've been doing for thousands of years, is we've been separating ourselves from the natural environment, and it's human supremacy. It's like we've made this claim that we are such an intelligent species, that we are the most intelligent species on this planet, and the exact opposite is true. Of all the species on this planet, we use the least of our intelligence in dealing with our environment. We seek to control and manipulate it. Not for survival, for convenience. We may have started using it as survival for basically stopgap, but then basically all these technologies and things we've acquired over the millennia have grown into more conveniences than modes of survival. And and these conveniences that we've been creating throughout our lives have become dependencies for the following generation. And that's all part of the language dilemma too. I mean, we pass the cancer on to our children, and then our children pass the cancer on to their children. That's the way it's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. And here we are, we're living in a world of shit. Unless you happen to be the fortunate few who've managed to capture all the wealth and the resources of the planet. So you know, they're no different from us. I mean, this is not an us against them scenario. I mean, rich people are just affected by this bullshit as us poor people. You know, it's a human thing. It's not an American thing. It's not a Russian thing. It's not a Chinese. It's a human thing. We're all fucking human. And we're all part of the same overall structure of human society. You know? It's all a bunch of cultural, mental masturbation, control, whatever. It's like, you know, it's like cultural warfare, whatever you want to call it. You know? Language is a very dangerous thing. Language is another technology, and it's a technology we humans really, really need to come to terms with, because it's turning us, and it has been continually turning us into a malignant cancer. Just look at what it's doing to the planet. Okay? Things are not getting better, they're getting worse. Our air is becoming more and more polluted. Our rivers and streams, our lakes, and now even our oceans are all under serious threat from humans. We've been trying to dictate our terms. We've been encroaching upon the wilderness and all the other life forms on this planet. And we better come to terms with this within the next few thousand years. Otherwise, this whole planet is just going to be dead. It's just going to be a dead planet floating through space. Okay? And if there happens to be any other planet out there with the ability to sustain life like ours does, and if these beings come here, they manage to survive through all their battles and whatnot, and if they come here, what they're going to find, we're going to leave a lot of artifacts, and they're going to say, you know what, here we had a species who basically annihilated themselves and basically took life along with it. So, live apart from your language, not a part of it. That's my own little motto, you know. I try and get out of this urban cancer that I'm stuck in. I'm just doing the best I can, and, you know, things are fucked, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I just deal with it moment to moment, and I don't hope for anything. I don't make plans unless I can get them done with a reasonable period of time. I'm not into philosophies. I'm not into religion. God to me is nothing but an imaginary thing that a lot of people agree with, and next thing you know, civilization was born. You know, fuck all this shit about purpose, and, you know, fuck all these philosophies and religions and all these laws and personal codes of conduct and norms for society. It's all bullshit.